Thomas Pringle was born in 1789 in Blakelaw in the Scottish borders. He was involved in a childhood accident and was made lame, which becomes important later. He was educated at Kelso Grammar School and then at Edinburgh University, where his poetry and other writings attracted the attention of James Hogg and Sir Walter Scott. Scott actually nominated him to become one of the 1820 settlers in the Cape Colony in South Africa. And he went out with a party of people and he was settled on the Bavians River in the Zorveld, the Sour Field, on the border of the Cape Colony and the Xhosa kingdoms. He discovered two things at the Bavians River. One, that the treatment of slaves by the Afrikaners was absolutely appalling and it outraged him. And two, that as he was lame, he couldn't do farming. So he left the Bavians River and went to Cape Town, where he established two newspapers and a school for slave children. The two newspapers he used to campaign against slavery, publishing articles and poetry. And this attracted the attention of the governor of the Cape Colony, Lord Charles Somerset, who was the son of the Duke of Beaufort, who was a slave owner. So Somerset actually banned his two newspapers, closed the school, and forced Pringle to leave South Africa. And Pringle arrived in London destitute. He, however, had attracted the attention of, amongst others, William Wilberforce, Thomas Fox Buxton, the MP for Woodford, and Zachary Macaulay, who was mentioned by Ian White earlier. And they employed him as the secretary of the Anti-Slavery Society. He was the driving force. Wilberforce was the figurehead, but he was too old to really take positive action. It was Pringle who led the campaign for the Abolition of Slavery Act to go through Parliament. It was Thomas Fox Buxton who steered the Act through Parliament. And in 1833, the Act became law. Pringle intended to go back to South Africa, and he published his narrative of residence in South Africa in 1834, but then he died of one of the many infections that were rampant in London at the time. He was buried in Bunhill Fields in Islington. And he had now established a reputation through his poem, The Bechuana Boy, as the father of South African poetry. So in 1970, his body was taken from Islington and reinterred at the Bavians River in apartheid South Africa. I can imagine him spinning in his grave. He would have been furious. He was an opponent of everything that apartheid South Africa stood for, although obviously it was a century after he died that came into effect. So I think in a short talk I have proved that Thomas Pringle was a man for all that. Thank you.